What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we're talking underspins, spring fishing, and why you should be throwing an underspin. So I was just out on the boat with my buddy Wes, and he asked me, what's the best underspin? Luckily, I had my box, so I have a bunch of baits, a bunch of different heads, and kind of explained it, and now I'm going to explain it to you. At least my opinion, there's not a right answer. You know, when you say, I'm going to throw an underspin, there's so many different heads on the market, right? There's exposed hooks. There's weedless, flashy swimmers. There's big swim baits. And then something I haven't heard a lot of guys talk about, changing out the actual blades on your swim bait. You know, throwing an electric shad blade on there to match your swim bait. So different heads, different baits. More importantly, different swim baits for different water temperatures, different bait fish mimicking swim baits. So just going to kind of run through at least my underspin lineup and kind of help you guys, or at least give you my my thought process or my input on the deal. Because not all underspins are created equally, and you should throw them in different situations. Are you on a highland reservoir in open water, chasing, you know, fish that are blowing up, chasing shad, spotted bass? Or are you out on a main lake point just creeping bottom in the wintertime? Are you in grass, needing to throw something weedless? It all comes into play. So what is the best underspin? So for me, basically, swim baits. Let's talk swim baits first, and then we'll talk about heads, because, you know, everybody says, oh, just go throw a Kitech on an underspin, you'll catch fish. That is completely true, but there are better swim baits than Kitechs in some situations, and even Kitech themselves. Should you be throwing an easy shiner? Should you be throwing a swing impact fat? Should you be throwing, you know, there's so many different questions. So let's start with that. So let's talk swim baits. What is the bait fish you're trying to mimic? What is the water temperature? Because as the water warms, as we move through this spring transition and the water warms up, you're going to want swim baits that have a lot more kick, a lot wider kick, maybe some belly roll to them, a lot more aggressive. In the wintertime, you want something really tight, really narrow shimmy, just like on your crankbaits or any of your reaction baits. You want a tight action. Well, same thing with swim baits. So now that we're going into warmer weather, I'm going kind of away from the easy shiner swim bait. That's a bait that I like to throw in the wintertime, unless it's a bait that I have to burn. You know, if I have fish that are actively blowing up and I'm casting to them, I want to cover a lot of water, so I want to be able to swim that bait fast. The easy shiner looks a lot better when it's swam quickly than the swing impact fat, okay? But for the most part, I want a warmer, more wide or more aggressive kick on my underspin. So through the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, hands down my bait's been a Kitech. Swing impact fat. They come in several different sizes. 4.8, oh, they come real big, 7.8, 6.8s. But for the most part, they come in 5.8s. For the most part, 4.8 was my big one. That was what I was throwing. And then I would drop down to a 4.3. That's the length. And then sometimes a 3.8 and even a 3.3. And then a 2.8. This guy right here is a 2.8 swing impact fat compared to a 4.8. See the difference? With that said, this last year, this bait really stood out to me. This is the new, I say new, it's not new. It's made by X Zone Lures. It's called the Swammer. And Matt was talking about a lot about this swim bait to me last year. And I finally got a chance to see some underwater footage, see it in warmer water. And boy, let me tell you, that thing looks so good. So this year, moving into this warmer water, I think this is going to be my go-ahead swim bait. Now, with that said, Keitech has so many great colors. You know, if you're in stained water or dirty water, you can go with something like Sungill, where you have a chartreuse belly. X-Zone has some great colors, but the selection isn't close to Keitech. So hopefully they'll get add some additional colors to the lineup. But as far as swim, that swammer comes in a few different sizes. That thing is money. Now this is the swim bait that I'm going to want to be using as the water temps get warmer into that mid 50s, low 60s. Right now, kind of fluctuating depending on the weather. Right now, water temps are high 40s, low 50s, kind of flirting with mid 50s. But now we have a week of real cold weather coming, so it's going to drop back down. That's where I'm going to go with that tighter swim bait. Now, back up a little bit. The whole purpose of throwing an underspin, something with that blade on there, that flash, that vibration, is to try to get those fish that are keyed in on chasing bait fish, threadfin shad, baby bluegill, baby crappie, whatever it may be, is to get your bait to stand out from the hundreds or thousands of real bait that they're chasing. When you add that little bit of flash, it's just something a little bit different that lets those fish key in on your bait. That's when this really, really shines, okay? So that's when I throw an underspin versus just a weedless swim bait, when I want that extra flash. So we talked about the swammer, talked about the Keitech. If you are a guy that is primarily fishing fisheries that have threadfin shad, and you have smallies, spots, largemouth that primarily feed on shad, this bait right here. Do I have one rigged up? I thought I did. I caught so many big spotted bass on this setup right here. That is the Largo Shad. The Largo Shad, it's a real versatile, durable bait. Has two different ways you can fish it. You can see right here on the tail. Let me hold that up for you guys. See that little gap right there on the tail? You can actually take that off and it change, just like I was describing with the Keitechs and the kick, it changes how that bait kicks in the water. So you can play with it both ways and see what you like. But this one right here caught a bunch of jumbo spotted bass for me this year, paired up with that Gamakatsu head. I'll talk about that here in just a second. That's a screw-on head. So you rig this bait, you screw it on, that thing holds on there. I mean, you can catch 15, 20 fish on one bait. You're not going to go through baits with that type of keeper system. So that exact setup right there, that's a 3/8 ounce head. Allows me to cast it a lot farther, but it doesn't get hung up too much on the bottom. That thing is a killer open water underspin. Okay? So Largo Shad, the X-Zone, the Swammer, the Keitech, either the Easy Shiner or the Swing Impact Fat. And then last but not least, if you're a guy that likes to downsize a little bit, that Miki Armor Shad. Now you guys are probably familiar with the name Miki for the Miki rig. This bait comes in a paddle tail and non-paddle tail. So this is the same style of bait that you would put on your Miki rig when you're vertically fishing or fishing in the winter time. But that same durable bait comes with a paddle tail. And do I have one rigged on here? I don't think I do. But that guy rigged on a little Cool Baits head is money. It's going to be more durable than the Keitech. Has a different swim. It's got more of an aggressive swim than that Easy Shiner. So that is my lineup. That is the swim baits that I use depending on the bait fish that I'm trying to mimic, the water temp. Like I said, as that gets warmer, go away from those tighter shimmy-in swim baits and get something with a wider kick and play around with the different baits. That Swammer is awesome. Now, couple tips I want to share with you guys that, like I said, I haven't heard or seen a lot of guys talk about. So this guy right here, this is a 5/0 1/4 ounce flashy swimmer. I took the stock blade off and put an electric shad blade on. So We'll link everything down below in the video description, but you can go get different blades, right? You have, let me open this for you guys. I play around with putting Colorado or Indiana blades on my underspins. I play around with adding bigger blades to my underspins, especially if I'm in stained or murky water. Owner, did I bring any of those? Owner this last year, maybe 2 years ago, they actually started making the flashy swimmer with the Colorado blade on it, and you can get it in gold. So not only can you get it in silver in the Willow or the Colorado, now you can also get it in gold. But to one up that, get yourself some blades and make your own adjustments. All it is a little split ring. You take the one blade off and put the other blade on, and you could actually pre-rig these at home. Just take this wire off, change out the blades, have a handful of them rigged, and depending on the water clarity, depending on the water temperature, adjust from a Willow blade to the Colorado or Indiana. I know I've caught fish throwing a straight up red blade with a red swimbait. You guys know about the fire cross stuff, the visibility. I talked about it in the muddy water video. Visibility is key, so if you need some vibration, you need a weedless bait, add that red blade to your underspin. The other thing I want to talk about, I probably should have done it, but I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't have all the stuff to do it when this topic came up today on the boat. But adding a stinger hook on an underspin. Now, I've done this video. I talked about that tip maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but it is a simple trick, and it's just to help capitalize on some of those days when the fish are eating the blade, not really getting the bait. But so we talked about taking this split ring and putting a different blade on it. It is super simple to take a light wire hook and put a stinger hook on that blade as well. It doesn't need to be any larger than the blade. It's just going to be a hook that's going to fit the same size, the same length, a light wire hook. You don't want it to be super stout wire or overpowering the blade to keep it from spinning. But basically, it's going to be a straight shank hook, or even you could go a wacky rig hook if you want. A light wire, mosquito light. Just know that when you set the hook, you might be playing them on a light wire hook. This is probably a bad example with this big old, this is actually the mag draft. I have that rigged on an underspin. You can see how that swim bait is set up. But let's talk about this guy. You're probably throwing this on 6, 8, 10 pound tests. Well, go ahead and throw a little stinger hook on that split ring, and it's going to sit inside the blade. You want to put it on the inside of the blade, the part where it's curved in. And that little hook is going to hide behind that blade, and it's going to spin tight, just like a football, right? Tight spiral. But when they eat that blade, a lot of times you'll be throwing that underspin, and you'll dunk, didn't get it, dunk, dunk, didn't get it, dunk, and then they get it, right? They're hitting that blade, and maybe another fish comes in, whatever the scenario is. But now when they come up and hit that blade, now you have that hook. So it's just a tip if you guys want to, especially if you're fishing open water, fishing lighter line, that's a tip for you to run that stinger hook on that blade. If you do go with the Colorado style blade, you can get away with a little wacky rig hook, like a little mosquito light. But yeah, that's just another tip for you guys. But again, the question today, what's the best underspin head? I don't have an answer, but I'm going to go through the heads that I have for you guys. The ones that I use, I have a ton of confidence in. We'll start with the smallest and we'll go up. So right now, for small swim baits, the Miki, the Kitech, either the Easy Shiner or the Swing Impact Fat, we're going with the Cool Baits. That's the Cool Baits. Comes in several different size heads, but that right now, I say right now because we're working on our underspin head coming out here at the Classic pretty soon. But that guy right there is money. That is the 2.8 size swim bait killer. That is what I throw. Moving up for the exposed hook. Now it's important to understand the difference, the exposed hook versus the weedless. If I am fishing open water, I'm always throwing an exposed hook. It lets those fish, if they come up behind it, you're reeling it, they come up behind it and eat it, and they go to turn off, that exposed hook is gonna hook themselves as they turn off, and you get that bait to load up in their mouth. You don't have to reel down and set the hook as hard as you would with a bait that's weedless. So exposed hook, if I'm going 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce, man, it's really hard to beat that gamakatsu. That is an awesome, awesome bait, especially with that screw in style head. You don't go through nearly as many baits. And then the other one, another screw on, is gonna be the Spin Tricks. This head is available straight up chrome head. So if you're on that type of bite, that style of bite, chartreuse, white, a lot of different colored heads. Again, it's an exposed hook with the screw on. That is a head if I'm fishing into heavier. So 3/8 into 3/4, maybe even 1 ounce if I'm fishing big smallmouth underneath a spillway or something where there's lots of current. I need that swim bait, that underspin to get down. So that guy right there, that's the Spin Tricks. Oh, here's the cool baits, a little bit heavier. That's the 1/4 ounce cool baits compared to the little 1/8 ounce. I'll show you real quick. That is a 3.3 swim bait, and that's the 2.8. Okay, so that is the exposed swim bait hooks that I use. And then as far as weedless, for me, it's just the Flashy Swimmer. Either the Flashy Swimmer 5/0 1/4 ounce, or maybe a size up or down depending on the swim bait I'm throwing. And then, like I said, they do offer that in a Colorado and willow blade, as well as silver and gold. And then the bigger one, if I want to throw, I don't want to throw a traditional beast, I want to throw that Flashy Beast, so that same stout hook with some flash on it. If I'm fishing around grass, that's where these really come into play. If I'm fishing around grass or through wood, laydowns, branches, that sort of stuff, that's where I'm going to want to go weedless. And they straight choke this thing. A weedless underspin thrown through around docks, through trees, laydowns, brush piles, that's where that really, really shines. But again, guys, don't be afraid to play around with blades. Blade sizes, I'd say, probably start anything smaller than a 4. So like a 4, 3.5, a 3, 2. You start getting into these giant blades. This is a 6 right here. It's giant. I mean, here it is compared to a big old mag draft. So you can play around with bigger swim baits with bigger underspins and big blades, but for the most part, you're going to want those smaller sizes. So for blades, just remember, the smaller the number, the smaller the blade. I think on like a 2.8, that's probably like a size 2 maybe blade. So just give you guys a little size comparison. But remember, pay attention to your swim baits. Look how that tail's kicking. Look how it's swimming in the water. Do you want to be slow rolling or do you want to be burning? Totally depends on what swim bait you use. Don't be a sleeper on that swammer. That thing is awesome. And hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on underspins and what is the best swim bait, what is the best head. Hopefully that helps you guys out just a little bit. I know it can be confusing because there are so many underspin heads and swim baits on the market, but that is what I have confidence in. That's how I break it down. Open water, exposed hook, grass, through stuff, I'm throwing that Flashy Swimmer, the different baits depending on sizes, and swim depending on the water temperature and clarity. Guys, if you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comment section. I'll try to get to those as soon as possible. But yeah, this video is just kind of on a whim. You guys, if you watched the other video, which will go probably a day or two before this, you guys know that I broke my fingers today. So it's been one of those days, but stopped by my buddy's house on the water, and he came out fishing and asked me this question. And luckily I had the majority of this stuff in the boat because it is stuff that I fish pretty much year round. So it's just one of those days, but we appreciate you. Thank you for watching. If you learned something, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys on the next video.